You know, like funny old guy joke.
No.
Your favorite.
That's
alrighty.
I love it. He's so cute.
So we're a little bit late, but let's call to order the City Council Public Safety Safe Committee of June 9th. Approval of minutes from previous meeting.
I emailed. I missed the last few meetings, so I don't know.
I'll have to go back and check.
Let's go back and check because I can't recall either. I'm sorry about that. That's so funny. I went through this list and I must have completely skipped over that.
Because I usually email mine like
Right to the,
yeah when we're done.
Right.
The whole agenda is really kind of quick and straightforward. So,
yeah.
Public speak time. Seeing no one from the public, we can move on to new business. So we have a request to amend the traffic rules and orders by adding a stop sign at the intersection of Spring Street where it meets Chestnut Street. I did have a chance to drive out. Did you guys have a chance to drive out?
Oh yeah, I did this afternoon.
Okay, thank you so much. So
not a problem.
We did receive a letter from a neighbor saying that she needs a stop sign, and then we did get a recommendation from Chief McMahon, who thinks it's probably a pretty good idea as well.
I thought Spring Street went all the way to East Green, but it is Chestnut. I didn't realize that. I was mixing up Chestnut with...
There wasn't a sign, so I was like, you know,
but I was
Google
mixing up
mapping
Chestnut.
it.
There's like East Chestnut or West Chestnut over by Clark. That's where I was.
Yeah.
Oh.
But which end did they want the sign? Because there's...
The far end. So when you take the right
You
on
come
the
off
Spring
Holyoke?
Street from Mount Holyoke,
From Holyoke Street?
all the way to the end, it's Chestnut that it kind of tees into.
It's
And
a
the street on the
strangest
right-
corner.
Yeah, it kind of goes
Yeah, it's
down.
on a curve.
It's
And then it goes this way,
I mean,
it goes this way back over to Mutter.
yeah.
And then East Green goes down to the new thing here. So is it this end? Because there's none down here
It's
by
that
East Green.
end, yeah, where you first put your
This one
pen.
here.
Yeah.
Kind of where it's all funky. One goes this way, one goes this way.
Precisely.
Kind of waves.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a spoke
And I could see where
almost.
people would just kind of drift in.
And there is a perfect telephone pole right there on the corner that we could just put the stop sign on, which is what
Yeah, I
you
don't think it-
recommended.
The police?
Can be affixed to an existing street sign pole.
Oh, street sign.
Sorry, misspoke.
Okay. It was just such a funky thing. I mean, I came up from Holyoke Street,
Right.
and I got to the end of Spring Street, and I'm like,
That's
well,
right.
this is weird. You almost feel like you want to just continue going left.
Yeah.
Like the
It
road.
does seem like that's
Just-
what happens.
And it kind of does drift that way, which goes around
It kind
the
of
mile.
feels that way.
But you get kind of...
And then I'm like, geez, I almost feel like I want to put the stop sign on Chestnut Street.
And when you come in on Chestnut Street, it feels the same way. Like it doesn't feel like there's a natural stop either. So I think that's where there's no natural stop on either of those
And then I
roads.
came back around the other way, and it was like, it just seemed to me like coming around that curve, like, I don't know, it's a wonky intersection.
It is.
It really is difficult, but I don't know. I noticed a lot of other stop signs were missing down on those side streets too. You know.
We get either, stop signs where some have them and some don't.
Yeah, we're missing a
Or
lot of
some could
stop
be
signs. Well, yeah, some could have disappeared and whatever, but you know, on this, I wanted to reserve any judgment until I heard what the recommendation, and I knew the recommendation was from the police chief. So if he thinks and he's recommending that the stop sign should go at the end of Spring Street, I would have no problem with that. There's something obviously needs to be done somewhere in that.
So she says, the woman, Laura, says, I wish you would consider placing a stop sign on Spring Street before you enter Chestnut. So she wants it on Spring, too.
Yeah.
She doesn't want it on Chestnut.
Yeah.
It's not clear as to the right of way. That's the chief. It's not clear as to the right of way.
It is.
Well,
She's absolutely correct.
It's kind of
Flows it all
right,
this
because
way.
it's like,
It kind of flows. It's
you
a
got
couple of
Chestnut
different-
Spring, and then Chestnut, it doesn't continue around that corner. It turns into,
I think it does
does it?
until it hits Mutter.
Yes.
And
I think
even
it's-
Mutter is like,
That turns back this way.
that's,
Right.
it's not a, you know, left,
But I think-
90-degree angle. It's like this
Is this where we
gentle
call them like old
curve.
cow paths, and this is what we've ended up with at
It's
this point?
probably,
So the chief
yeah.
wants it on Spring too.
Yeah,
Right.
and there is that pole where it is missing the sign for Chestnut, if you
The
look.
street side.
If you look, it's not there. I hate it when I say things like that. It's such a New England thing. You look, it's not there anymore. So, I think it makes sense. I mean, not that this is heavily trafficked, and if there are two vehicles converging, it's not.
This was entered into
rare.
record already?
I believe,
Overall,
yes, it was received.
Okay. Well, I'll make the motion that we bring forward the recommendation to the full city council that we put the stop sign at the end of Spring Street before entering onto. If that's what it is.
I'll second that.
Any other further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Well done. So, continuing business, or there's one question I had with new business, which isn't on here, but Joy had noticed that we did this Mechanic Street looking for a stop sign.
Yes, I
there.
enjoyed you were.
And she copied everybody on the email. She had mentioned it to me, and it just went in one ear and out the
Yeah,
other
it's-
completely. But what is our protocol for following up on this? Because we were like, there, done, and
Right,
we
yeah.
made the thing. But is it just on us to follow up after 6 months? Or
I think what happened there was
They were actually.
number of things. Was we passed it in anticipation of the parking lot being
Being
done.
constructed, right, which was.
Because it was contingent on that, to be able to have
Right.
the cars and whatever park in the parking
Okay.
lot. And then it was winter, and they don't do the signs in the winter.
yeah,
So I think, just got kind of put down to the wayside until I tried to go to my doctor's office the other day, and I had to maneuver. Yeah, and then somebody was.
and somebody should
and
do
then
something
you
about
got
this.
no parking on the right side. It's like, oh wow, we still have that. No parking on either side, on the right side, and I walked out of the parking lot at 15-minute parking, and it's like, oh man, we didn't. This has not been taken care of. So right in the doctor's office, I wrote the email to Joe and said, hey Joe, we voted
Right.
this.
Well, I just didn't know if there was a
a
step
kinda
that
need
we
to
were
get
supposed to
this done.
take afterwards to like follow up, or, I mean, I have no problem scheduling stuff like that. I just didn't realize I had to. So
I don't think that we ever had to. Normally when we vote on something
yeah, there's
like
nothing
that,
in there like a time frame like this should be done within the
Yeah,
next like
it's
3
taken
months
care
or
of,
6
but I
months
think
or something.
I think it
because
might have
of
been because of the parking lot.
the parking lot delay and then
Okay.
winter,
Like everything
and
else
it just kind of got lost
Okay.
in the shuffle.
Thanks. I just want to make sure
Yeah,
I didn't miss
yeah.
a step or something. The draft street acceptance protocol, I'm just going to mail it directly to planning before, last time we talked about, like, I'm going to give a copy to, but I think it's got to go to planning first, because I think they're going to have more edits for it, even though they have had no input up until this point. But I just feel like it would be, I would do work in the other direction, and then it would just all get.
And did we ride through Boston?
We did, yeah.
Doesn't look like he's done much since.
No, I'm not.
Did he call you?
Okay, so, all right,
'Cause his
so
wife
that's
called
just
me.
the update on the
The
street
protocol,
protocol.
yeah.
I'm just gonna send it to planning
Okay.
and just
Oh,
let
you
them
bet.
do whatever they're gonna do. So, Paul Street, I mean, when we looked at it in the fall, it was like, this still looks like a construction zone, and it's kind of chaotic, and that's a very weird street light. It doesn't look like a commercial city street light. So, we went, I asked Jessica about it real quickly, and she said, the developer came to her for approval of the location, but he's evidently not paid for it to be turned on by the power company. As I mentioned earlier, the mayor would have to approve the light as part of it, pay it themselves, or they all chip in and they pay for it. And that's from Jim. And then Jessica had said earlier, in relation to your question last night, I went back to the planning board for the public hearing. It appears the developer requested a series of waivers to the subdivision design standards. But in the waiver request stated that they would place one street light at the end of the cul-de-sac. We haven't received any of these waivers. So maybe some of the questions we have are addressed in these waivers. Planning board accepted the waivers and restated that their conditions the requirement of one streetlight. So I don't know if we have any design standards for the streetlight itself, but I mean, this looks like a Home Depot like streetlight, like that. It's not.
It's like a colonial.
Little bit bigger than the one in Narnia, little bit, but that's
It's like
it.
a colonial. It's like a colonial light.
It's not a streetlight. It's a lamppost.
It's a lamppost, right? It would
Yeah.
be something someone would put at the end of their driveway, only probably twice as big.
Right.
So,
But I don't know what the standards are. I don't know what they asked for. They asked for a street. If they asked for a street light, it's not really a street light.
are
They
all
asked
of
for
the
a-
utilities underground?
But there's waivers. Well, so
Correct.
that was the other thing. So I went to
Believe that.
Amanda, and she said David said the streetlight was located based on the plan after discussion with what was Western Mass Electric Company about where to locate it. The electricity is supplied through a conduit, which the city has already taken over. David said Jim Gracia is aware of all this information as well. So nothing agrees with anything.
And they may have actually wanted a light like that because it does buck up to those condos, Joy. You know, and the condos maybe didn't want a really high street light that's going to shine. into-
Without knowing what any of these waivers
Right, that's what I
are,
said.
we
That's
really
maybe why they gave them.
can't make a
might be in the-
decision.
I think we got to get the waivers and see what the waivers.
But street lamp post to the side. I drove down it. Were you able to cruise through?
I haven't been down there since the fall,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of felt like, I don't know, I just kind of felt like it was just not finished.
It doesn't
Like
feel
it was-
finished. And I really tried
I can't put
to.
my finger on it, but
Well, there's two lots that are empty that
Right,
they're saying will
right.
build to suit, and
Right.
there's tar berms all the way through
Right.
that have that are all dinged up. I mean,
Right, from the construction. And they're going to build.
From construction.
I would say he could put at least 3 or 4 more houses in there. But there's like 2 that say
There's at
build,
least 2
and then-
lots.
But on the cul-de-sac there, I'm not sure, I don't think they can build, because it goes to the conservation
right.
trail up
I'm
here. I don't know
positive
if
there's 2 lots.
At
There
least 2,
may
maybe
be
a
3,
3.
but there's no cutout in the berms for access to those lots. So that construction would be happening. And then this also gave me like great big pause. But all of their sewers have this kind of tar paper around them.
that's they'll remove that once construction's done. That's put in
Keep
there
the silt, maybe?
to keep the silt from going down into the sewer.
Right.
Since you'll see those on.
So
a
that's
lot
a
of
pretty solid
projects.
indication that construction isn't done.
Oh, absolutely.
So why it doesn't make sense for us to accept responsibility for the sewer and stuff. With
Yeah.
the construction still going on.
Yeah, and
From what I understand.
And then
I mean,
I think that might be a question you want to talk to Mr. Gracia about. Because I agree.
I like putting a cat in the ceiling with that. I don't know why.
It doesn't look, I mean, again, I remember it in the fall. It doesn't look like he's done, maybe finished one house. or-
No, and a couple of the houses have construction.
Because I mean, some of that building materials are the same building
There's
material
piles of
that
wood
were there, I
that
think,
were there
back in the
last
fall,
time.
right?
Yeah, there's still a porta-john like on something, but there's a new hole dug somewhere where it says building. I mean, it doesn't look. Hi.
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 Good evening.
Hi,
Hi.
Library committee?
Now, they moved, I think, downstairs.
Downstairs. Thank you.
So,
Excuse me.
What was the attorney?
Amanda.
Was she going to get to you, or did we ask her?
We had the question about the lamppost because
Oh,
we
that was
couldn't
in
see
it.
anything
No,
because
I
it
knew
was
you- I
covered
knew
in
you were gonna
snow.
call.
And now that the snow's gone, it's like, well, we've got these sewers that are now exposed, and you can see that the berms are all dinged up and everything. I mean,
Yeah, and then, so that piece is in the roads department and our engineer.
Right. Well, I mean, the way I see it, as far as we're concerned, we have 2 decisions. We could say no, because it doesn't look ready, or we can, follow up. But I think we do need to find out what the waivers are.
I think we should find I think we should find the waivers from planning board so that we know what the light is, what other waivers they may have gave them.
Right.
And I think we ought to get an update from Jim Gracia, have Jim Gracia get on there and say what his opinion is of
Of the condition.
Yeah,
of the road.
yeah,
of the
yeah.
roads. In other words, like, how much more, I mean, because he would know what, I mean, just to get maybe if nothing else, just to get an update from Jim Gracia about what he feels
Yeah,
the
yeah, I mean,
progress of.
It seems like it's very slow moving.
Yes, I don't know, maybe he's having trouble selling, I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, because it just doesn't feel like it's...
Because I know back a while, they were holding a lot as like his fund,
Right.
and they released a lot. So I don't know, I think that was like in the fall, so I don't
Right,
know.
and that's what we centered
That was
around
what we
with the
centered
street
around.
So I'm
acceptance
gonna
to have
copy
that
Jim and
conversation.
Jessica, and I'm gonna ask about the waivers, if any of them had anything to do with
I
how
would
this.
also CC Jim Gracia and Amanda, so that she knows that
Right, 'cause she-
we're looking at this.
Maybe put a fire under it. It just looks like almost, I hate to say that he's not doing anything, but it just, the way the building materials were, it doesn't look like anyone's even been touching it.
No, it's all like overgrown,
Right,
and
they're
there's
just sitting,
no.
they're sitting where they were sitting, and it looks like he's finished the houses pretty much that are
Right.
done, but he doesn't look like he's.
Yeah,
And I'd be a little afraid to approve a road and then.
Yeah, I'm not even sure
I mean, also, I don't know. if
whether
this-
the plows and whatever, if we're gonna have any issues with any of that, or the sidewalks look like they were kind of, I don't know, it just, I have to take another ride down there now it's summer's here. I mean, last time I was down there, the basketball hoop was in the middle of the road, and
That's still there, somebody's run over the bottom and it's like spilled out all over it. It's kind of a disaster. It's not like, here's your shiny new road, aren't you happy to own this?
yeah,
It's like,
it's
I don't
just
think I wanna own this
kinda,
yet.
yeah, it's kind of, yeah.
I think the existing homes are moving. Just not good.
It's not a happy neighborhood.
The neighbors.
Isn't like the basketball hoop, isn't that from one of the?
That's on one side, there's like construction trucks on the other side, which aren't affiliated or appear to be affiliated with the actual construction going on. It's kind of tricky to figure out what's going
Because when you
on.
make that little turn, or you come straight either way.
Yeah.
When you sort of enter the road, there's like an existing house that was there a while.
Yes,
before the-
yes, it's like a dark brown ranch.
Right. So I didn't know if they're happy. Is now the basketball on that side or is?
Basketball's on the other
Yes.
side, with one of those like green men with a flag, watch for children,
Yes.
and some toys.
Yeah, it's like the street has become the playground. Not that, I mean, it's a dead.
Which is fine.
It's
I
a
mean, it's a
dead-end
dead-end
street,
cul-de-sac.
and it's fine, but what's
Basically, we're being asked to take responsibility for this. and It's not
Yeah.
anything I
Okay,
want to
come
take
in.
responsibility for right now. And
Yeah, I
I'm just
know.
not comfortable with that.
What's attorney
Amanda Kemp.
Kemp, K-E-M-P?
K-E-M-P,
I
yes.
gotta get used to that. I only know her as with her maiden name when she worked for Dad.
Well, now that we're a port city, I guess it's to be expected.
I was just looking, young man.
So, all right, so we're gonna update, we're gonna find out what the waivers are, get an update from the city engineer in progress, and you're gonna send communication to the planner, engineer, and attorney Kemp about the updates and the waivers and the project.
The waivers and the design specs on the lamp post. I mean, maybe that's nothing.
I mean, if they're not
but-
gonna, well, of course, then we get back, I was gonna say if they're not gonna make any progress, then we can always take it off without prejudice or something, but the other trouble with that is.
Yeah,
we're getting this- we're
well,
gonna wait-
without prejudice, we wouldn't have to wait
We wouldn't have to wait.
six months.
But then we're gonna be back into the situation with plowing private roads.
That's what the
I
street
just-
protocol's
just-
gonna cover that.
Just wanna
Right, so
get
if we can get that
this
done.
shored
But
up.
what I'm saying, we take it off the agenda, then, I'm saying, he'd be, I would think he would fall in on if he comes back, he would fall into the loop. So
Yeah.
it'd behoove him to
Yeah.
get it done.
Well, and I think that's what happened. We had the question about the lamppost, and I possibly, unfortunately, I don't know my email, but maybe I just worded it as a question about the lamppost as far as who's
Exactly.
responsible for it, and we went into who's funding it. But my real question was like, is that spec? I mean, that looks like just a
Yeah.
end of the driveway lamppost. It's not a street light.
So that might have been the way, maybe that's what the planning board wanted. I mean, I'm just thinking of, only because it does, as that cul-de-sac goes up, that's right as close as you get to those condos.
Right.
There are a couple of condos right there, maybe, and I'm thinking like.
If it was that height and it went over the street, there's no way a fire truck would get past it. And I assume the radius on the cul-de-sac has to be a certain spec for the fire department, but it seems a little
Yeah,
tight.
usually if one of my buses can't get around it,
Fire truck. maybe.
fire truck isn't gonna get around it, because
I mean, this seems
my big buses are normally
I
the
have
size
no
of a fire
guess
truck.
on what that would be.
My 77 passengers are about
Right.
the length of the fire truck, actually even shorter. Our ladder truck is much bigger, but it bends. My buses
Your
don't
buses
bend.
don't have a guy in the back.
So we'll
You
just
can-
call the
you
chief
can-
and be
you
like,
can-
hey, we want to watch.
You can picture that, right?
I would watch
It's a
that.
straight body, it doesn't bend. The fire truck bends.
You gotta do
The
that. You
cab,
could have
the cabin,
have one section.
and they have a steering wheel in the back. They can.
Little steering.
I don't know if ours does or not.
I don't think it does. I think the
don't
modern
it-
ones don't
Yeah, I
have
think
those.
the modern ones do. So these
Those are
steering
amazing,
All right, so are we at the end of our agenda?
The only other thing is I had somebody question me and I don't know how
New
to
business?
introduce it, and it would be, I guess, new business. Parking on Pleasant Street. On the mill side on the right, there's no parking, and it's a super wide road. And the inquiry was whether or not we could get on-street parking on Pleasant Street on the right-hand side, especially with all the new
There's no
business and
parking
mills
until
going
you
in.
get to the Legion, or just before.
There's
the
a, I looked today, there's a couple of spots in front of the Legion, and they are
Handicap.
Handicap. Hey, you know what, you could bring it forth to the city council to have it put it on our agenda,
Yeah,
to have us look at it.
but with all the new business and stuff going on in
Sure.
the mills,
I mean, I
that
think it's
it
a-
was like
I think.
And I don't think you have the old, I mean, a lot of that parking was restricted because when those mills.
Tractor trailer
had a lot
trucks
more
and
tractor
stuff.
trailers coming in.
Yeah.
Well, I remember as a kid, the factory workers, they parked up and
Both
down
sides.
that, both sides of
Right.
Pleasant Street. I mean, it was packed. Because they didn't, the only parking area Stanley Home had for their employees, but Lesnow's, Lesnow's, which was the building next door, Rubber Thread was up at the other end. This was Rubber Thread over here, and then Rubber Thread was also where the fire station is, where my grandfather worked. But I could just remember as a kid, you know, they would park up and down Pleasant Street, both sides, and
There has to be some parking up by, was it Nishan's place? Because I remember he wanted to not let a truck park. Do you remember?
well, he was having a fit because there was
There was a guy who used to come in from like. I don't know
Yeah, with the
if he-
tractor.
If he visited someone, he used to try to transport cars.
Yeah, it was a tractor trailer
And he'd
truck
come
with
in-
the big.
And he
Yeah,
would park
I
there
remember
And he used to
sometimes for a
park
couple of
down
days.
there, and
Yeah.
He parked for a day or two, especially on weekends. and-
Yeah,
It-
he
it's
had a-
weird because
yeah.
it's high and then there's kind of a
But I
cliff.
think he wasn't
But
legal,
they-
he was legally parked, you know,
Yeah, he was.
so there's gotta be some parking up
I mean,
higher.
we could look at, maybe like hourly parking,
Yeah.
you know, not, and, you know, in the overnight.
I think that would make sense.
I
Yeah, so
mean,
that you can, now,
so if somebody wanted
Theoretically,
to
they're
stop
supposed to-
for an hour and go run in and do whatever it is they were gonna do and run out and then leave.
That helps businesses a lot.
Sure, it helps
You know.
businesses and then it gets rid of that issue of the big tractor trailer truck sitting there overnight for the weekend, because that just drove him nuts. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, there's a lot across the street and they park there.
so I
They'll
think
be
we should
running.
put it on the agenda and take a whole look at it. and-
Okay.
and we get the, like we always do, get the police
That'd be great.
recommendation.
Yeah.
and
Well, because I saw
Get
that,
Kinsey's recommendation and see what they say.
that write-up for the traffic calming measures for Union Street.
Yeah, we're
Artistic-
probably gonna be involved in that maybe.
Well, I mean, how many speeding tickets do we give out on Union Street for
No,
traffic calming?
I don't think well, people do speed. Don't get me wrong. I mean, when I do 25, which I feel is appropriate going through town, and I think it's posted at 30. But I don't feel that 30 is.
It's pretty
I feel
tight.
30 is too fast.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think
with the
25
crosswalks, absolutely.
is
Yeah.
appropriate. But I think what they're gonna look at is the curb cuts and making it more conducive to walking traffic.
Yeah.
You know, shoring up the sidewalks and.
Well, if you
the-
hear of any other traffic
cleaning it all
calming
up.
programs coming through again, I would love to see Ferry Street or Parsons Street especially with all the new mill parking, with more people coming through, like Parsons Street, people fly down until it hits Ferry.
And they
Ferry
shouldn't,
coming
because I
down.
think and the police
We're
are
gonna
always
put a
there.
lot more people in that neighborhood.
Yeah, the police are
you know?
always there,
Right.
because when the
It's a
school
lot
was
of
there,
younger
when the
people in
school
that
was there, the
neighborhood.
police are always down there, just
So-
kind of making their presence known.
Yeah, so, I mean,
But yeah,
that's
you're
what I
right.
think of with traffic calming, is that there's a speeding issue, and I don't see that on Union Street, but, and it would also be great if some of these art projects were kind of spread out from the center of town a little bit too, so,
One step at a time, one street at a time.
I know.
I think the traffic.
I'm gonna
calming-
walk through Parsons Street with, there's a gentleman who lives there, because he was like this and this and this, and like, and get some lists, because I guess where the bus stop is, there should probably be a crosswalk, because there's gonna be more kids at Village and you know, in Parsons Village, so,
Well, it depends.
yeah.
Do they pick up
It depends
school?
where they're
I mean,
going to be.
you know, school, I mean,
Well, it depends on where they're going to be
where the kids are,
districted.
right.
If the kids are going to be, they're going to obviously be districted, well,
Right now, there's like no crosswalks, and there's a lot of kids who live in that neighborhood.
there's going to be
That's my
a lot
I mean,
of
you're
children
gonna have to
in that
put some
neighborhood.
crosswalks, I mean, because even the other side, from the other side of Parsons on there.
Well, we should
Yeah.
definitely have a crosswalk.
It's a
from
cut-through.
the right
I mean,
to
people-
To
the
whichever
left
side the
anyways.
bus, certainly the buses stop.
Yeah,
It depends on which way the buses
But I don't know
are
which
coming
way.
and where they're going.
Right,
Yeah.
that's exactly.
I mean,
well, that's kind of your purview. Do you want to take a look at that?
That-
Would you
I
mind?
could. No.
That'd be great, because you understand it way better than
Yeah,
I do.
I do, and I've been asked to do some other stuff on their transportation pro bono, so we'll see.
Senator Lesser just got a whole bunch of money for bus transportation for a regional school south of us.
Well, if he got it just for the south, then he got it for all.
Regional's got a separate.
The regionals get reimbursement. That was the deal.
Yeah.
But we're getting off track. Let's finish this up
Sorry.
and then we can talk about it.
No, believe me, I
That's
see
right,
those
yeah.
things and I'm like, where's
Um,
mine? Yeah, like, let's just take a look at Parsons Street and see what we can do, because that neighborhood is going to have more kids in it and more people in it, and it's totally a cut through, and
Okay.
that'd be great.
All right. All right, so sounds like we are going to have our plate full for the next.
You know me, quick. Sorry. I know. I got asked about Pleasant Street and stuff.
Well, that's fine, and I think it's
Yeah.
really something that we should look at. And then Parsons Street is absolutely a safety thing that we should be probably looking at.
Yeah,
too,
no, there was
if
another-
they haven't already looked at it.
Right, no, and I noticed it, you know, somebody had mentioned it to me about the crosswalk and the buses picking up kids, and where was it, you know, the Parsons Village. with
There's a
lot
whole
of kids.
bunch of things going into that. I mean, are they a mile and a half from their districted elementary school? Which
Probably
districted
not.
elementary school are they going to? Do they transport less than a mile and a half? I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what the school committee's
Right.
rules, policies, and procedures are.
But if
on
we're
that,
doing
but-
something where we're putting together people from the community to put together traffic calming measures,
Sure.
I think that road should absolutely be put
Yeah,
towards.
I think that these
towards the
traffic
list.
calming measures were a grant, because they're looking at redoing all of that whole stretch, redesigning
Well, we got
it
a
and
grant to
redoing the
do
whole thing. For the
like a
redesign.
plan.
Yeah,
You know, so I know we got the plan, but I haven't heard about us getting any money to implement any aspect of
well,
that
I
plan.
think once, well, I think from what I heard, and I was probably talking to the school on this one, was they got the money to look at the plan, and that's where the traffic calming, to make it more pedestrian friendly. Look
Mhm.
that in, look at the curb cuts, do they make sense, do they not make sense?
Where would we find a
Do-
copy of that plan? Because, yeah, we got the grant and we were all part of it. And we were,
Planning. Jessica's
Yeah,
office.
Jessica ran that, I mean, I
That's
remember being.
her.
so we can just ask her for a copy.
Sure you can. Yeah, anybody.
Sure she
yeah.
would.
So
Or-
the
or
copy of the
see.
Union Street.
Find out what she had.
But I think right now she's in the visioning.
Yeah, the
That's
guy-
why she's asking for the meetings and people to come in and give them their ideas.
They did have a guy come in, well, I don't know if you went to it, I went to it,
Yeah, we
I
walked
remember he had
down
a-
Pleasant Street and.
No, I didn't do all the walking, he came in and he did, He had pictures of like Newbury Port.
Yep.
I remember
Yeah.
going there. He had a visual thing, but I don't
Right.
know if there was any written that, if that translated into a written document.
Well, it seemed like kind of one of those
That was
meetings
part
where
of
they
the
took
first
all
part
the
of the plan.
information and then they were going to present us with a plan,
Sometimes
which is
we-
important for us to have when we go for grants, that we have a plan in
I'm
place.
sure Jessica's gonna have to have that before she could apply for a grant.
Right, well, I think
Right,
she's
but
still
the
working
grant was
on
to
it.
get this
To
plan.
get, yes, to get.
This other company was building us the plan,
Ah.
and we should have received it. And I just assumed, as being on the committee that helps put information to get this plan, that we would get copies of the plan when it was finished.
And,
But if they're working on things and saying it's part of this plan, clearly the plan is finished, and we just never
I don't
received
know if
copies.
if it's finished or not, because she's still getting input, she's holding meetings and getting input.
But this is separate.
So this is separate?
Totally
Okay,
separate.
okay.
This would be an implementation of something
Okay.
that was suggested. So if it was
Okay.
suggested, I would assume it is finished.
Okay.
But we just never got a copy.
So, Madam Chair, are we almost done here? So
Yeah,
I can,
almost done.
all right, so I'll make the motion to adjourn?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Okay, now we can continue. Yeah.